Welcome, friends, to another episode of Response Agility. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Mark Abramson. I met Mark while at Esalen Institute in a New Year's retreat. And I fastly discovered that I got into some of the best meditations of my life so far. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. It's good to be here and good to see you again and to be with your group. I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how a dentist or oral surgeon got into meditation and what you do now.
Well, I have to actually go back to childhood. I had I call it my blessing. I was walking home on a rainy day at 14 years old and in Baltimore where I grew up. And I was on the sidewalk where I should be safe. And all of a sudden I hear a crash and I'm flying through the air. And a car had hit me, a stolen car out of control, had been a scene in a movie. But as I was flying through the air, I had what I considered a wake-up call. Some sort of voice inside of me said that this is not an accident. This is to teach you, pay attention, as I hit the ground. And I was in hospital for 2.5 months. And it felt surreal. It felt like it was something that was supposed to happen in my life. And because of that, that instruction, pay attention, I brought my attention to feel everything that was going on inside of me, all the pain, all the sensations. I dealt with the post-traumatic stress by opening to the feelings and loving myself and being kind to myself. And I realized that I got well faster and it became a ground rule in my life. And I have a lot of intuition that I've tuned into that I use in my life. And somehow I knew I had to be a dentist, but I was never going to do teeth or work on the body. And meditation was a foundation of all that I've done as a healer and a teacher. And I had the opportunity to start a program at Stanford. So I founded Stanford's Mindfulness-Based stress reduction program, which we deal with a lot of the athletes. The largest group that takes our course at Stanford is actually through the business school, which is interesting because a lot of business people realize that creativity comes out of that peaceful inner state that we now call flow. And I think I because of my experience, that I became a good teacher to get people to recognize what meditation really is, which we're all good at. We're all great meditators. But we've got some things wrong where you're supposed to get in this altered state and your mind is peaceful and quiet and you stop thinking and you're in bliss is not real. And it throws most people off. I often ask the question, how many people tried to meditate and gave up because they couldn't quiet their mind or get into this magical state? And you out there, within yourselves can kind of look at that question. How many of you have stopped meditating because you thought you weren't doing it right?
Or don't even try.
Yes.
Don't even try. So I want to just back up for a minute. And I know that when I went to that retreat, I went because it was at the end of a year and the beginning of a year, and I wanted to have some sort of kind of ceremonial transition or retreating to recover transition. But how do people determine that they want to learn to meditate? So here you are in Stanford. It's a business school. People go to Stanford to make a lot of money, to be a name. How do they suddenly realize they want to learn meditation? And how do they wake up? Because they're not hit by a car. They're just
right
in life.
Stanford's business school has a lot of what they call touchy-feely courses. They're really focused on that, which is wonderful. And they talk to each other. And basically, a group took the course many years ago, probably 20 years ago, before social media. And they had their own kind of email group. And they said, you got to take this course. And all of a sudden, 75 students show up at the class from the business school.
Wow.
Because they realized that one good idea can be a new company. And the best physiology for that is being peaceful, is being present.
Stop and say that again. The best
physiology to be creative is a peaceful state. One of the things I want you to understand is there's a great paradox in meditation and in business is that if you take the time to take care of yourself, and we learn through meditation how to actually control your physiology. Like we have a control for our TV to change the station. We can actually tune into ourselves and bring ourselves down to a more peaceful, stable place through breathing, through concentration, through awareness, which is the cores of meditation. And
so you're saying that we have the power when we're stressed out or overwhelmed at work, or overwhelmed because we see what happened to these poor people in San Antonio, Texas, with the flood, right. Or what's happening in the world,
yes.
That we have the power to soothe ourselves. Is that what you're saying? We have the power to get ourselves back home?
Yes, and I'll give you the core of that. The way that you breathe, there's a body language. So if when I'm talking, the first thing I do in any class that I teach is I teach people actually how to breathe correctly, because very few of us breathe correctly. So the body language is very critical to communication, and inner body language is critical to your physiology. Whether you're stressed out and adrenalized and in a sympathetic tone, or you're in the parasympathetic, peaceful place, which you're actually more healthy and more effective and happier. And I'll give you an example with myself. I invented a couple medical devices for treating sleep apnea. And just last week, I decided I needed an intensive meditation for myself. And I spent 3 days meditating literally from early in the morning till late at night. And I didn't expect it, but about the middle of the third day, all of a sudden this idea of this manufacturing process for a new device just popped in my head. And now it's actually being implemented. And I didn't expect it, but it was, and all my ideas have come by first generating this peaceful place. And that's when your brain actually is more open.
So the peace is the alchemist for creativity.
It is.
So something must happen in the body. I mean, I've read Consciousness Mapped, and I've read Dave Hawkins, but something must happen in the body that opens up some, chemicals or something that makes us access our own creativity, because it didn't really just pop in from outer space. It was always within you. Yeah. It was just dormant. So how does that work, Mark?
We had a little problem with our slides, but I'm going to talk through a couple slides that you can put in afterwards.
Okay.
So I love science, and so I have one foot clear on science, and also I'm a mystic, and I love living life that way, that bringing those two worlds together. And I never thought they would come together. And when I was finishing my residency, I had a girlfriend who I lived with, who her brother was a physics graduate student at Stanford. And so we had a household of physicists, and I was the crazy guy practicing meditation. I never thought it would come together. Well, it so happened that my girlfriend's brother's girlfriend was Sally Ride, who became the first woman astronaut to go into space. And there was a book about her that came out. And right as I was getting it at an airport, right next to it was Scientific America, which had on the cover, The Mind of the Meditator. And I want to go over a couple things, and we'll put in the slides for this. But what it talked about is that we now know the brain, imaging of the brain. We can see what the brain is doing in these different states. So when you're not focused, meditation is simply the simple thing of be here now. If you're really here listening to what I'm saying and being present, you're actually meditating. If you're thinking about what happened last week or what might happen after, later today or tomorrow, you're off your path. Okay. So we've got to start bringing ourselves more into the path. So what we're going to show you is the mind of a meditator. And the first slide is unfocused mind, which there's part of the brain, the posterior cingulate cortex, which you don't have to remember the name. The short thing is PCC, but you can forget about that. But what it is that when you're not focused, it's called the unhappy part of your brain is now the part that's online, the part that ruminates, the part that worries about the future, the part that makes all this noise in your head. And one of the things about meditation is that people try to stay focused and lose focus and get upset with themselves, but that's normal part of meditation. The core of meditation is just feeling yourself breathe. So right now you're either taking an in-breath or an out-breath, and you can feel yourself doing that. And when you do that, it brings you into presence. And then you try to do that and continue to follow your breath, and an intrusive thought comes in, and it takes you off somewhere. But there's a point where you recognize that you've gone off and lost it. And that's a critical point, because as soon as you recognize that you've gone off, you're actually back. And you've shifted your brain. And we'll show you the image of this, is now you've shifted your brain to the more front of the brain, the more intelligent, wise part of the brain. And that's what meditation looks like. It looks like staying focused for a few breaths, losing focus, and coming back. But the critical point is you don't have to stop your mind. You don't have to stay focused. That it's really a process of continually reorienting yourself. And as you bring yourself back, you're actually using another part of your brain that has to do with executive function that gets stronger and stronger and stronger as you continually come back. So it's an exercise in coming back home to yourself, to this moment, and being willing to watch yourself lose it and then come back and do so with kindness.
Okay. So let me just give real life. So when I first learned to meditate, I remember every time I went off, like making myself off track, make myself wrong. Like, that's not how you do it. That's not good at meditating. But then I remember in your course, you saying, okay, so you go off, just come on back now. And that's actual training the brain to focus.
It is. That's the exercise of meditation, is actually bringing yourself back.
Wow.
And what we know now about the brain is the part of the brain that you're using to bring yourself back has to do with executive function. That's the part that is the crown jewel of our brain, and brings us to the front and to the neocortex, which is the part that has the complex and great ideas that will pop up, not making them pop up, but they'll naturally pop up because that's where that is located in your brain. So it's kind of like people who live in places where it's snowy and your car drifts off, your car starts to slide on ice. You know that you have to turn towards the turn, not away from it. And so the first thing to do is to get control. And the way that we get control is by actually being kind to ourselves and gently and kindly bringing ourselves back, reorienting yourself. And part of what I love about teaching this is that what comes out of this is self-kindness. And to me, that's the most important thing that we can learn in our lives, is to our own mind being kind to ourselves. And so it's a practice of connecting with yourself, tuning into your inner experience with awareness, and just trying to stay at home in this moment.
I do think it was your retreat / workshop that we talked about, like athletes, and other people. Like, how does performance in life improve? And I know there's slides, but just from what you've seen.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So I've had the blessing of coaching a number of Olympic athletes who take our course. We just had 7 of the men's basketball team take our course, including Maxim Renault, who just got drafted by the Sacramento Kings. We had the men's gymnastic team, and they know about this because their coaches, they have now mindfulness coaches in sports medicine. And the reason for this is that getting into flow is your best performance. So a relaxed athlete performs better. And meditation is the core of that performance enhancement. So you try to strain, to hit a ball harder, to throw harder, to whatever you're performing. It actually inhibits your performance. And so the thing that athletes are learning, and you see the outcome right away, you see scores go up, you see performance go up. So it's a beautiful place to use this because there's an immediate outcome that you can see. So we have a lot of the athletic teams that take our course. It's very popular with them. I'm actually talking to the men's basketball team now about coming in as a formal coach.
Wow. Yeah. How cool, Mark. That's awesome.
We'll see what happens.
Do you like basketball? Is that something you're passionate about?
I'm actually passionate about tennis mostly, but I started going to the games when I had all these team members, and I really got into men's basketball.
I love men's basketball. It's one of my favorite.
The women, yes.
I love the move and the strategy and how fast. Now, I want to change the subject for a minute. You happened to meet and actually do some work with Ram Dass, who is one of my teachers, I guess. But I want to know about how Ram Dass influenced you, because like people like me, we can only read the books or listen to the podcast or go to the retreat in Hawaii where he's not there. But you had the privilege of meeting him and learning from him. And Ram Dass wrote the book, Be Here Now, Grist for the Mill, tons of books that I don't have by heart, but we'll put a list. But he was probably the grandfather or the great grandfather of connecting to yourself in meditation in this country.
Yeah.
Right. So share more about that, because that's kind of cool. I think people like history, a little history lesson on how all this started.
Do you want me to tell my Ram Dass story of the?
I do, but I also want you to tell, from what you know, how we got exposure to this thing called meditation in the U.S.
So Ram Dass was a psychologist at Harvard. He got into LSD. Him and Timothy Leary were sharing next to each other in rooms, and they both got into LSD. And he got fired from Harvard, went to India, and met this guru named Karoli Baba, who I think was the real thing. And he turned on a lot of people at Harvard to the book Be Here Now was about Neem Karoli Baba, Ram Dass, Ram Dass's guru. And I started following him and Stephen Levine, who started the hospice programs. These were a lot of the people bringing meditation to the West and bringing Eastern philosophy to the West. And Ram Dass was going to perform the ceremony of me and my wife's wedding, but the date didn't work out for him. So he told me to come there to his house, which he lived in SoCal, not too far from where you live. And we had this session. And in this session, he talked about what a spiritual relationship was. And it's not that you get along and everything's bliss. It's that you work through things together, and that the places that you're stuck match the places the other person's stuck, and you get to work things out in a healthy way in a spiritual relationship. So he had me and my wife look at each other's, sit facing each other and look at each other, say, okay, you're going to go in this relationship. What are you holding back from this person? And my wife said something that was not, okay, that's interesting. I didn't even remember what it was. But I thought about it, and when me and my wife got together, the energy was totally different, and I knew that this was the big one. But I had been dating a lot of women, and we didn't, in the first couple of weeks, we didn't have a formal agreement, and I went and saw an old girlfriend, and I told her about that, and she went crazy and ballistic, and Ram Dass starts getting crazy and ballistic. He was magnificent. He just knew what you were thinking. Anyway, he stops and he says, I have to do something with you. And he has me looking in his eyes, and he's the LSD guru with big giant eyes. And he starts literally physically pounding on my chest. Come out and play, come out and play, come out and play. And he's pounding, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, the LSD guru is pounding on my chest here. And I'm just, what do I do? And then he stops and he starts playing with the energy. And then we're driving back, and my wife's still furious at me. And all of a sudden, my heart just goes, and I'm in an altered state. I'm in pure love. I mean, it's indescribable love. And I just all I could do was love my wife and love the world and love everything. I was in a state of love. I don't know what he did, if he does this to everybody. Anyway, so we're like, my wife and I are going through this, and I told the story at the retreat with my wife there. So it was kind of fun to, because I never shared this before. And anyway, the next day I felt the chakras close down. And I told Ram Dass, I called him the next day and told him about it. And he said, okay, now your work's to find that place and stay there. Mm. And I think that at the end of his life, I saw him at Nepali Kai, which we're going next week, by the way, to Nepali Kai. I know
you're kidding. Awesome.
Yes. But he was, right before he passed away, he was just, I know where he was. He was just in love. And so these mystical experiences can be moments that you have to tap into something greater and recognize that we've got to bring that into our lives. We need to start bringing that into businesses. I mean, what could be the most fulfilling thing than create something that brings value to people and makes this place a better world? We've got to start bringing that into the equation. It's not just about making money. It's about finding your way to be healthy and happy in your life, and to have that come out of you to help others, to support others. And we need to start putting a value on that. Not just how much money's in our bank account, but how much joy is in our lives, and how much peace do we experience.
Yes, how much joy is in our life. Exactly. So if you're anybody at all interested in exploring what meditation is about, and you're listening to this and you think maybe, there's something to it, there's got to be a way to calm myself down internally. A lot of people, Mark, go home from work, and I was one of them. I remember I was married for 11 years, and every night after work, we had a drink. It was normal to have a drink after work. And I remember saying, I need to calm down from work. I need a glass of wine. And I know a lot of people still do that. Right. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you like it, you like it. But at some point, I heard Marlo Thomas say in one of her keynotes that as you're putting the drink to your mouth, you need to ask yourself, why am I drinking right now? And if it is any form of self-medication, maybe meditation can help. So how would a person begin? If they want to calm themselves down, if a walk in the woods doesn't do it, or drink a beer, or whiff a weed doesn't do it, how do they get started?
Well, the core thing that we have is our body movement and breathing. Okay. So if you remember, I used to use 9/11, when we heard the news of 9/11, and what did you do in your body? And the answer was, I gasped. You hear about the children at the camp that you're talking about now going on in Texas, and you just go, and what is that physically that you're doing? You're breathing up here in an in-breath. And that's the physiology to release stress hormones. So what we don't realize is that the movement in our body triggers release of different chemicals and either drives us to the left or right. It either drives us to be more stressed out or to calm down. And you've heard it in every yoga class, breathe into your belly. Well, very few people actually breathe correctly and breathe down into their belly. So I want to, let's do a little exercise here where you imagine that I usually use Hawaii or Esalen. You're in a beautiful place. And you just take a few breaths up into your chest. Just breathe. And if you're tuning into your body, you can actually feel your body get a little tighter. You can feel the adrenaline start to move through your body. And a person in a panic attack, they're just breathing like this and releasing bolts of adrenaline, and they can't stop. They become caught in that cycle. And what we need to do is we need to start to breathe down, your diaphragm going down into your belly. So the best way to do that, because a lot of people are used to breathing up here and the diaphragm going up into the chest, it's called reciprocal breathing, and they're actually releasing stress hormones all day long, is that we've got to relearn how to breathe down, get your diaphragm to go down. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to make your body go wide as you breathe in, and breathe to your back, because your lungs are actually in your back, and that will make the diaphragm go down. So you just take a couple breaths, slow breaths. And in 3 breaths, you'll feel it's like changing gears. You'll feel yourself settle down. Okay? If you could do 3 breaths into your belly, that's enough to break the cycle and start to settle down. It's the glass of wine. It's instead of taking the glass of wine, it's settle yourself first and then decide if you want wine or not, is what I would recommend. Settle down first. And so you can, if you're doing that right now, you can feel that. You can actually shift your physiology. Take a couple breaths up here and you feel yourself tighten and your mind kind of get tight and your body get tight together. And you take a couple breaths to your lower back and your back. And you feel yourself settle down. And that's releasing endorphins that make that help your body heal, make you it changes your brain, as we'll show you on those videos. So we can control ourselves by breathing. And that's what meditation is just tuning in, making sure that you're breathing correctly and staying focused on the breathing. And then let yourself gradually settle down. It takes a little longer to settle down than you can get charged instantly. It takes longer. You have to be more patient with settling down.
Yeah. So Mark, I was thinking that one of the things I'd like to offer people that are listening to this podcast is an opportunity to go through that training that we did before that we'll redo. And maybe we give them an opportunity to opt in if they want the training, and then we can send them an email with the training, because I think it was valuable, and I think it can be valuable. But for 45 minutes, they probably want to sign up or ask for that. So what's besides me inviting you to do that again with our studio here, what's a parting word of wisdom that you can give people who are interested in living a life inventedly or having response agility through meditation?
I think ultimately, yesterday was the Dalai Lama's 90th birthday.
Wow.
And the Dalai Lama said something that he says little things that are just profound when you start to realize. He says, my religion is kindness. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a Catholic. We're not Buddhists. My religion is kindness. And I think that is the most important thing. And the most important person to be kind to is yourself. And what I love about the Stanford students, and a lot of you might be this, is that Stanford students they got admitted to Stanford because they worked their asses off. And most of them were cruel to themselves in doing that. If they beat themselves up more, they won't get that one question they got wrong on the test. They'll be number one instead of number two. And what I love about teaching at Stanford is that there's a better way to be successful, because I started to look at, why do we do this? Why are we hard on ourselves to begin with? And it's not because we want to hurt ourselves. It's because we really want to be successful. All of you are doing this because you want to be successful. And if you think that the way to be successful is to beat yourself up and to be hard on yourself and to get on yourself when something doesn't go right, to, like beat the horse harder, then you're just going to be harder and harder on yourself because you want to be more and more successful. And what I love teaching is actually the better way to be successful is through kindness, and to be peaceful, and to be a better athlete that way, and be a better leader in business is to be the one who's the center of the storm, which is a peaceful place in the center of all the stuff going on around you. So ultimately, it's being kind to yourself and recognizing that that's a better motivator than being hard on yourself.
Wow. Awesome. And Mark, besides, we are going to give people an opportunity to take that class for free from you, 45 minutes. But how would they, you have a book. We didn't talk at all about the book, but guess what, Dr. Abramson, I have it right here. And it's called Love Yourself for Everyone Else's Sake. How did they get this book?
Amazon.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Mark, thank you so much for being here.
We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Everybody.